everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. I'm still in Greece, in Mykonos, and I've been thinking a lot about the last podcast that I spoke about, episode 147. It was all around kind of finding your way as you go, the kind of upgraded ideas around that. So it might be cool for you to listen to that episode prior to this one, or if you want more backstory on it. Today, I'm going to be diving into how you go about implementing this in your life, in your art. And again, just to sort of catch you up on it, this really has been the focus of Art2Life and this podcast the last couple of years, this idea of how best we can make art, how we can find out who we are and who we're becoming, how to achieve it, how to feel amazing, how to have higher energy in our life. And it all circles around this idea of feeling into how we are, what feels right for us, choosing what's right for us, and often planning ahead, trying to figure that out, isn't the best way. And we learn this in art, that we are better choosing based on sort of finding our way as we go. We make something, we have a better sense of what we want after we make something. This is what art teaches us. So today I'm going to be diving into sort of more of the how you implement this to create your life, better dreams, how to create all the things that you want in your life, in your art. This impacts your health, wellness, relationships. So I thought I'd just cover some of these things today, because I love learning codes and ways of being, and then strategies to test it out and try it. Most of my teaching revolves around how to do this in your art. Early on, I figured out that the best way I could help people make their art stronger was get them more connected to themselves. And that's where this thinking kind of evolved. This is about building trust in the unknown. We tend to resist this. It's scary. We crave certainty in our lives. And I was just on a call the other night with a bunch of artists that are in Spark right now. And I said, what's hard? Just kind of in the chat, and across the board, it was, I just can't let go. I can't just let go of having to have an outcome. And I've known this. I mean, this is what, if we can get rid of this, if we can lighten this, then our art can become less so. The less control we have of it, the more ourselves can be in it, the more felt sense, the more of who we are can show up. If we're not like white knuckling it towards an outcome. But I just thought that was really interesting that we've lost this in our culture. We've lost this ability to be present, to just feel okay about where we are, and settle into it. And this is what's required for art. Obviously, we need to become present to make our art. And I think it's a good thing, bad thing. I think we love art making because it does this to us. When we're truly doing it, we procrastinate and worry about doing it, and we judge it at the end. But while we're in it, if we drop into it, it's fantastic. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to it. We forget about our worries, our concerns. You cannot be making art, truly be making art, being creative, and being any other way than being present. So again, episode 147, I go into these areas talking about art, how this shows up in art, how it shows up in health and wellness and connection, right? Like it's so connection to ourselves, connection to others. And also in terms of achieving what we want in our life, desires, our goals, our dreams. So I'm going to dive more into this today because once I started on it last week and I was jumping around from different cafes because the internet wasn't working and it was really noisy. It was crazy. So it was a little challenging. Just I kept getting interrupted, but I realized in talking about it that there's so much to talk about here. This has really been my primary focus the last few years, and integrating this into Art2Life, in all the teaching. The Bloom practice, I talked about that an episode or two ago. That is a simplified version of what I'm sharing with you today. Let's just talk about this in terms of art strategy. How to go into this. And I mentioned it last week, how to become more present in it. There's such a temptation to judge the outcome, but the strategy really is around playing and realizing that this time, if you can separate some time in your art making to play, you will be more experimental. You're just going to let go of an outcome entirely. And the most important thing here is that when you're playing, you're not following any guidelines. There's no rules. You don't have a destination. You're just going on what feels right to you. What I love is there's no right or wrong answer. And all that's right is what feels right to you. And you just try it and you just go there. And we can get comfortable with this. Once we give up on the plan, then, and we can stay in that unknown for a little while, we will get used to it, right? It will become more tolerable. It's exposure therapy. Just learning how to be in the unknown is a great skill to get for life, for art. I mean, life, it's completely unpredictable. So this just completely transfers over. But in terms of the art, it starts to fill you and get you excited, because what happens is when you're playing, things will occur. It always does. And because we're not trying, there's certain color combinations or certain things that are going to happen. And I believe that these are the things that should be happening. They're right under the surface of things. Once our mind stops trying to control everything, that's when underneath levels can start coming forward. The intuition comes forward. The voice of the soul, your inner knowing, all of that comes out when you're not trying to control everything. And it makes really amazing connections. It does surprising things. It's so interesting. I mean, I'm always shocked at how just you start doing art and you could just keep going, because it's just fascinating kind of what happens when you let go of this, of trying to create this outcome. And what to go further on this, it's not just playing as part of your practice, right? I mean, I strongly recommend having some time in your practice in the beginning or whatever, where you're just art making without direction, but to do this repeatedly, because it's in the repetition that you will start to notice outcomes. You'll start to put things together. You'll see color combinations emerging. You'll see shapes. And it gets more obvious when it happens more than once. So, it becomes more apparent through repetitions. Themes emerge. The problem we run into a lot in art making and life making is that we try and take too big of a step. We try to jump way too far ahead, and that throws us out of being present, because it's tricky to do that. But we want it all now, and we jump far ahead. So if we can just back it up and just feel into it and do the small things, this play, experiment, and be present just for a little while, it really will surprise you what will happen. This is the strategy for making amazing art, for incredible outcomes. But it's this practice that you get better and better at, and aspects of this way of being become integrated into all the ways you're making art. I believe it's important to be creating an amazing picture or a piece of art and be close to the finish of it, and then to be able to completely let go of the control and feel into what needs to be done next, right? So there's this balance between striving for something and letting it be and feeling into what needs to happen next without any concern of the result. It makes art easier. It makes art flow. It makes you flow. A really great question to ask yourself as you kind of get this going, right? This playing, and you're starting to create things, and you've got 20 things you've made over 10 days, small things that took 20 minutes, things in your sketchbook, whatever, and start paying attention to the patterns, to the themes. What do you like? And notice what you like, how if you feel something, it tends to make a certain kind of a mark. It tends to make a certain kind of a thing. And if that's how you like feeling, that mark you will naturally do that again and again. The repetition comes because your body, your soul, that's the direction it's pushing you. But it's often a feeling, which is really interesting, that it's a feeling that generates the visual imagery. It's a state of being that you want to be. It's the practice is presence. And this is the door that unlocks everything. All the changes that are going to happen for you are only going to happen when you're present. The big ideas, the realizations. So playing or carefree art making, carefree expression is presence. You cannot have a breakthrough if you're mired in the past, right? If you're back there thinking about your old work or how you didn't have a successful show or whatever the things are, or the person who told you couldn't make art, or you won't progress. You won't change. You'll stay the same. And frankly, this is why a lot of people who come into the world of Art2Life, and I get the privilege of working with, have been in the past. They're still mired in the past because they're still making their art that's connected to the past. Or, which is also a challenge, is they have an idea of how this has to go. They've told themselves a story that my work has to be a certain way, that I can't sell work that's not realistic. So therefore my future work has to be a certain way. And you won't change or grow when you're making art because you're not present, because you're down the road. You can't be back there and you can't be up there. You have to be here. So this is presence, and it's the connection to everything. So this is pretty easy to do, right? This is what, when I talk about the bloom practice, I'm connecting the present. How are you feeling in these first steps? And if you haven't seen that episode, I think it's 146, where we begin with connecting to a feeling we're having or we want to have, connecting to what that feels like and making art from there. So automatically we're in the present, and then things can start happening. So what do we hold on to, right? Like, how do we get used to, like, if we're not planning something, if we don't have a map, what we're doing is we're learning to trust what is coming through us When we don't plan, when we don't think, it's the feeling of how we want to feel, of what is under the surface of how we're feeling. All we have to do is stay present to that and make art with that in mind, feeling that, feeling what colors, what moves, what marks feel right to you. And when I say right, it's completely subjective. It's different for everyone. But this is what gets your art really unique. It gets your art really like you. We're learning to be present. We're learning to do something in relationship to how we're feeling in the moment. So let me drop into why this is so powerful for wellness, for health, for vitality. How this transfers over is that you start curating your environment, where you sit, where you move, what you're around, based on what feels right to you. It's an attunement to yourself that I'm talking about. And you get to start curating your surroundings to fit that. The foods you choose that make you feel good, the kinds of exercises or whatever you do. Do you like running? Do you like walking? Do you feel amazing? When do you most feel like yourself? You could start a list. I mean, we all know when we feel like ourselves. It's the most amazing feeling. And there's lots of instances of things we wander into that are not the right fit. And what I'm suggesting is this mode of presence is the practice of being attuned to yourself and adjusting everything to it. Everything, your surroundings, where you're sitting. I mean, I was sitting over there and it was just this white wall and it didn't feel like how I wanted to feel tonight, but these bougainvillea here that's more, this was like, yeah, that feels right. I don't know why. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a beautiful white wall. It's got a gradation on it, but this is what we're doing. And I feel better talking to you now. It increases your energy when you're in a thing, in a place, and you're present and you have that awareness and it fits you. Wellness, really, another word for wellness is just higher energy. The frequency of you feeling good is what I'm talking about. You feeling you is higher frequency. And this is felt by everybody. It's first felt by you. It's felt by you when you bring you into your work. Like, it completely translates. That's what people are purchasing when they buy your art. It's the energy of you. And it comes in with everyone who interacts with you. So the more time we can learn to be present to ourselves, the more this sort of state of being is circulating us. And it allows us to do more things. It gives us more energy. There's a overflow of this energy. It doesn't take a lot to start feeling really great, really embodied. I mean, your brain, your mind, your body, your soul, all those things come online. They're all participating, right? Because we're present. Presence includes all that. Presence is, you can feel things when you're present. You can sense things. You have a sense of what feels right. So it's really just, it makes sense that being present is the optimal state to create. But if we're present in a state of being, it makes it so whatever we are creating is our life, our art, And of course, our state of being affects everything. I love the idea that you have unlimited energy and we get to game this. You get to do more. You get to experience more by being more present and not wasting time into the future so much, especially around concerns that are worrying about things that haven't happened. And I get it. We all do this. I do this. And we all do. But we're looking at what's working today. We're looking at the key to feel more like ourselves, the thing that we can do to make our art stronger, better, have more energy, be easier to make, connect more with other people. I love this idea that we're the ultimate tool, that we are controlling our state of being. And then all the externalities change because of the way we're being. I used to do a lot of running and long distance running, and I loved it because it wasn't so much running per se, but it was a way to gauge how attuned a person could be to the nutritional needs, the psychological needs, the task at hand. And it really asks the participant of a 100-mile race to be incredibly present. You couldn't do, and I read a lot about this race before doing it, and some of the pitfalls, right? Like thinking about the enormity of the task would not work. Being in the future, I'm already tired. It's mile 8 and I have 92 more miles to go. That won't get you there, right? But if you could stay present, just staying present with the tool, with the nutrition you needed, trying to just find a way of being that was comfortable in this, and not worrying and thinking, going to the past, how maybe I should have done more training, or I've never done something like this, so who am I to be doing this? If you could stay present and at ease in the presence, your body could run. Your body could process and digest food. It's really extraordinary. I mean, you actually can eat while you're running, but you have to be relaxed. You can't be running too hard, worrying about how fast or slow you're going. You got to be running evenly, and your heart rate can't be out of control. It has to be like pretty even. There's effort, but it's not so much that it's distorting everything. So it's this incredible metaphor for presence. And art making is the same thing. And living is the same thing. How we balance this in our life, the ability to know where we're going and to plan on things, but to do it in a way that makes it more possible to get there, to enjoy the journey, in other words, to make amazing things along the way, to let the possibility for deviations, alternatives, different outcomes that are surprising to shift where you're truly going. To think that we can set off and know where we should end up. I mean, that's never happened to me. I mean, it's just never. If you talk to anybody, what'd you go to school for? It's like, I was going to become a lawyer. What are you doing now? It's like, well, I opened a veterinarian's practice in Fiji. I mean, it is crazy. Very few people end up going to school, planning the thing out, and then it just works out in their life. It all circles back, of course, right? Like, I've always studied art, but art, it seemed to me, was just the study of all kinds of things that interest you. It was the only subject that allows for absolute freedom and ambiguity and not knowing. So I thought I was going to become a marine biologist, but really what I was interested in was just going underwater and looking at cool fish because I love the color. I didn't know that when I started marine biology, but I know that now, and I still love fish, so it's not like this is a waste of time. This is just the circuitous journey of life. And what I'm talking about is the way of being to take advantage of how reality actually is unpredictable, always about to give you some amazing surprise, some serendipitous occurrence, something magical, right? Like if we're just head down, focused, working, frontal cortex, thinking that this is the only way to get there. There's so many opportunities, so many hints and clues and breadcrumbs that are showing up all around, scattered around our feet, and we can't see them because of the way of being. So we can get extra energy. We can get to feel amazing. And then that makes all kinds of things more possible. I want to drop into this idea of connection because this was the third piece I talked about the other day. Right? That this finding your way as you go, being present, wayfinding, not knowing ahead of time, choosing what feels right, being okay with feeling into the choice at hand that presents itself based on where we've been, what's changed today, how are we feeling today, and making the choice more from that place. Letting the inside of you dictate this, right? We're looking to become more self-expressed, and this is a way of being that comes from presence. You can't be self-expressed planning self-expression. It is presence amplified. We're looking to amplify our presence, which is such a great way to think about it, right? Like if you're going on a stage, you're going to be on a stage in front of all these people. The lights are on you. The sound is next level. The slides, the visuals. We're taking our presence, and you have to be fully present. That's another one. Like public speak. Like you have to be so present because everyone's sitting there feeling it. And if you want to land a conversation, if you want to connect with people, it's presence that is people can just feel it. When they feel seen by you, when you're giving them your presence, when you're present for them, they can feel it. So we're learning to recognize this, the power of being present. And it's also kind of a magical component of relationships. I struggle with this one and have learned a lot over the last few years around it because I become so present in many, many things and things that are in front of me, whatever's in front of me, I can lose awareness of everything else, which is kind of what happens when you're making art. You just drop into it's like flow state. But there's also an ability in presence to hold not just what is in front of you, but also a slight awareness of what's going on around you at the same time. Presence is a bigger awareness. It's like an animal that is listening, and they have all their senses attuned to possible danger. It's this ability to feel incredibly sensitive to your surroundings. And in a relationship, when you're going through life with someone, you're operating individually, but you're also operating collectively. You're with somebody. And you want to go into what you love and what brings you alive and drop into this, but you're also needing to have an awareness and be able to drop back out of into being present with whoever you're with, having that ability to turn on and off your presence according to what you want to focus on. It is powerful to drop in and be present with somebody. And if you only do it for a couple minutes, it's incredibly powerful. The reason why it's so powerful, and the reason why it's the elixir for relationships, it's what allows them to do well. It's the only way I've found, it was the only kind of breakthrough I've had in learning to do relationships better was because of this idea of presence. If I can be present, drop out of whatever I was being present over here and shift my presence over here, even for a short minute or two, what you're saying to the person you're standing beside, the person you're in relationship with, is that I'm here with you now, fully. I'm not back there. I'm not worrying about the work. I'm not worrying, which I know this is super hard to do. The stress comes from trying to control everything. I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm just saying that it works. And the reason it works is first of all, when you're present with someone, it's like the ultimate gift. I mean, that's all anybody really wants is just to have your attention and just to really pay attention. I've just learned that so much working with people, right? Like to really feel what they're going through and be able to offer something that's helpful because you can feel what they're in and doing. I mean, it's the coolest feeling to come up with something, but it only comes because there's no like template that you just try things. It's feeling what that person or that group needs and coming up with an answer based upon that. That's what a great teacher is. That's what a great mentor is. That's what a great parent is. That's what a great partner is. Here's the part that I think is so fascinating. That is, if you're present and everyone's busy in a relationship, you're doing things, you're having your own experiences, but if you can come together and you're present, in the present, this is the only time that you get to change together. That presence is when you get to grow and change. If you're never present, the relationship doesn't change. It doesn't evolve. It can't. It's just kind of an idea. It's like you're going through life with somebody. You're both doing separate things and you have similar interests, but it's not the kind of growth. You don't get growth. The relationship doesn't get to grow necessarily because neither person is really in the moment present, which is when the change occurs or the potential for change occurs. They're powerful moments. It doesn't take a long time. It's like dropping in and having an awareness of a present moment and marking it and having both people connected to that. Our art changes when we're present, when we're finding our way as we go, when we've let go of control, when we're not worrying about the future, right? It's the same thing, which is so interesting. If you realize that presence is what allows for change and growth, and that's where we're going, that's what we want in order to move along, to evolve, which is the whole point of us being here. This is the key to it. This way of being, which I think is so cool. The challenge that I've had, and I'm just going to share, I don't know, this is just, and I mentioned it before, I get so mired in one presence, one world, that it's hard for me to switch. But this is the skill. This is the skill to hold greater awareness that it's like, okay, now I need to drop in over here just for a few minutes because there's this moment over here. I'm making art over here. Or I'm having this experience here, but over there is also something. Where do I need to be right now? Where would feel good? What would move the needle? again, it's just this kind of awareness. It's very much like left brain and right brain. When we think, when we're in our heads, right, we're figuring out why our art's not working. And then at some point we have to let go of that and just be it. And then we switch back and forth, and we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's a little like this. Presence isn't just, you're just present all the time. You're managing different realities, concerns, things from the past, and you're kind of switching. But going from what's happening here to what's happening here and moving around is a skill that, especially with others, is so incredibly powerful. And it's so connecting. And it builds and allows relationships to grow and change. And when there's people in your lives that aren't present with you, it's like those old relationships. I've got some from high school. They're just kind of the same. They're still, we just never really evolved it. We've never had like that true conversation, those kind of conversations that make you feel like you're really being seen. Those were rare in high school. And the couple people I was like that with, I'm still friends with. And as you grow, of course, you get more and more of those. But it's so good. So just, it's presence. It opens everything. And I want to now move into this, how this relates into the bigger picture, into the dreams you have, the goals, all the things you desire in your life, how to integrate this in. And the clue is in that we need to become present to these dreams, through these desires, what it is we want to achieve. And I mentioned it on the podcast prior, sort of the basic idea is either writing it down or creating a form of it, a piece of art, an inspiration board, a vision board. In the Creative Visionary Program, we lead thousands of people through this, where we ask them, we hold on, we're not going to make art, and we're going to be spending some time figuring out what it is that you truly love, you desire, you want. And for many people, especially before they do it, it is not what they paid for. They don't understand the connection of it, but it's such a beautiful process to watch all these people become present. Because in order to imagine what it is you want, it takes you there. You just feel, you have to start feeling, because that's the only barometer you have to decide if it's the thing you want. No one else, there's no list out there that everyone's trying to achieve. It's got to be right for you. So answering that question and then synthesizing it and coming up with answers and codifying it and painting that restaurant that you want to, have in the Seychelles Islands or whatever. This is so powerful and brings you more present to it. We want to visit our dreams. They're in the future. They're not here. But what is here is the feeling of how those make us feel. And in order for this to start to happen, we have to visit it. Again, this is so much like art making, right? We drop into our art, even 10 or 20 minutes, and then we leave our art. And then we come back the next day and we look at the page and we do another one. And then we leave and we go do things. And then we come back and then we look at it again. It's visitation, absence, visitation, absence. Those are opposites, right? Presence. And then we're gone and then we're present. And there's something about the coming and going, the twists and turns of the road, that where we can see where we're going and then we can't see where we're going. And it's this coming back to it again and again that reaffirms and adjusts, recalibrates our direction. And it makes it so. it makes it more possible. We're creating instances, moments of that future in the present, which is so, I love that. I love that idea. The way we're being creates the conditions, the possibilities for all you're becoming in your art and your life. It's a way of being. So, in other words, whatever that thing is, whatever the dreams are, maybe it's to, let's say you want to run a marathon, trying to take the giant leap, too big of a leap to just try and go doing it. It's too big of a step. But what you can do in the present is you can just get up early and go run on the beach for an hour. And that will do more for moving you towards what it is you want. You're participating in the dream. You're marinating in it. And this opens up your confidence. It opens up the possibilities. You start talking about it, right? Like sharing it, making it part of your present allows it to become part of your future. It's just the coolest practice. It's literally like you get to have everything right now in small tastes. There's something that happens when you participate in what it is you truly desire. When you focus on that, it starts a kind of serendipity. And I know many of you listening experience this, a kind of magical occurrences of similar things that reinforce what it is you're feeling show up in your life. It's this, whatever you focus on, whatever you're participating in will expand, right? This focusing on, whatever you focus on grows. This is the secret to it. And when you're present and you have awareness, you start noticing all the other things that are surrounding you that actually feel as if, and I believe they actually are, coming into your world to support you in the direction you're headed. That you have this energy, this frequency about you that pulls towards you other supporting, powerful signs, meetings with people, opportunities, colors, words, books, speakers, movies. I mean, it's the whole field outside of yourself that starts responding to who you are in the present. It doesn't work if you're thinking about something that you're trying to become and you're holding on to that, right? The magic happens in the moment, in being present. The great art, the great connections with people, and your dreams are actually realized by being present, by being a certain way. You know that great saying where the worst way of being is feeling that you're just not in control at all, that life is happening to you, right? You hear this all the time. We know people like this. We get like this. I just have the worst day, the worst luck. This happened, and then this happened, and this happened. There is no magic in that. It is based on thinking about the past, right? That the day is wrecked because something that happened earlier, and that just holds you in there. You just keep getting more of the same because that's your reality. That's the reality you're creating, And then there's this shift where sort of the next higher level, like forget about that victim thing. That's just a dead end. But that life is actually happening for you, that there's possibilities, that, there's more people on your side than not. And this is a much more in flow way of being, that life happens for you, which I really believe. But this presence level, takes this idea that I'm sharing with you, takes you into the third realm of this, that life and all the opportunities, your life, everything happens through you, through presence, through you being you, stepping into that more and more and more. So it's a key to unlock so much. And I'm not sure what comes first, the great art or the way of being. Sometimes I feel like the great art comes from being the way you need to be in the world that feels the most aligned for you. And then the great art happens. Or maybe the great art happens and then that teaches us how we need to be. I'm not sure which. But regardless, the key is presence. The key is being open to possibilities. It builds your confidence and it restores hope. It really does. There's faith involved in here because you're feeling in the dark a little bit more and learning to trust yourself and what feelings you have, that it's true for you. And if it's true for you, it starts in motion, an entire tidal wave of change and growth and possibility. All right, you guys, listen, I knew this was going to go longer than I thought. I could talk about this forever. I'm going to sign off from Mykonos, Greece. It's really wonderful and special that I get to share this with you. Thank you so much for being here. And remember that you actually are truly a work of art. Thanks so much, you guys. Bye.